Hey everyone, Mr. MC here. This is a guide for round 5 of the Manufacturer Series exhibition season. Let's get this started. Use the 150 meter sign on the left side of the track as your first braking point. You'll be braking hard for a while. Gently ease off of the brakes as you start to turn in. Get the car pointing where you want to go and then fully accelerate. Now bring yourself to the right side of the track. Look for the little orange marker before the 50 meter mark as you want to brake before you pass it. Brake hard for a very short moment. Ease off of the brakes. Let the car go around this turn before you get on the throttle. Now lift off of the throttle as you go through this turn. You just want to stick to the right side of the track. Look for the little orange marker before the 50 meter mark as that is your next braking point. You won't be braking hard for that long. You just want to ease off of the brakes. Just let the car make its way around this turn and then get on the throttle. Now you can open up a little bit for this next turn right here so you don't enter that turn a little too sharply. Now as you go under the Dunlop sign, that is when you want to start to brake. Just bring yourself all the way to the inside of the turn. Do lots of throttle control as you go through this turn. Take advantage of this curve right here. Brake early for this turn. Just use some of your braking power so the car can still rotate as you slow down. Now when the curb on the left ends, you want to control your braking power. Let the car do the work of making its way through the turn while you make it slow down. Now brake early for this turn, and you're going to go about this turn the same way you did for the turn before, where you want to go for a late apex. Just get the car pointing where you want to go and then get on the throttle. But that is pretty much it for the lap guide. Let's go ahead and talk about the strategies. For the qualifying session, you're going to have 10 minutes to try to get a good qualifying time. And I just want to put this out there. The feel during the actual qualifying session will be off. So just want to put that out there since the qualifying session here in the lobbies, the host had it on. But anyways, Substream is going to be important here, especially since you have a mega long main straight. So when you're going through the last couple of turns, you want to make sure that you are within 3/4 of a second behind someone. So right around here, you want to make sure that you are behind someone so you can get their substream as you start off the main straight over here, which will lead you to your first qualifying lap. And then just try to hold on to that substream for as long as you can until the next lap starts. So when you finish your first qualifying lap, or if you want to do 2, you can do that. But when you're done with your qualifying stint, press options, exit, enter cores for the lobbies or qualifying for the actual race itself. That way you do not have to do an in lap. You just spawn back at your pit box, and all you have to do is do an out lap, and then you can start your next qualifying stint. So this will save you time by not having to do an in lap at all. You don't have to deal with the pit stop animation at all. You just spawn back at your pit box with a new set of racing soft tires, and all you have to do is just do an out lap and start your next qualifying lap. So you're pretty much going to want to do this until you run out of time. Alright, so before I talk about the strategies, I do want to mention what the heck happened this week. So for those who don't know what happened and why you're probably wondering, okay, where's this dude at? Why is he not making the guides? I was recording the Nations Guide stuff, so the one for Dragon Trail Gardens, when my old wheel decided to just die out of nowhere. So I was basically stranded, so I couldn't make the guides for that Nations race and race B and C for the daily races. But I just had a new wheel come in. It's actually the new Logitech G923, so I was able to get this guide out, which is why you're seeing it right now. But anyways, Logitech G923 story aside, there's a lot to talk about for that. But on to the strategies. This is actually pretty interesting. So the 2 and the 3 stop are pretty viable here. It's going to depend on what you're feeling a bit more comfortable with. So in this clip, I'm doing the 2 stops. So this is where you do 2 7-lap stints on the racing soft tires, and then you do a long 9-lap stint on the racing medium tires. For the 3 stop that I tried out later on, I did 3 7-lap stints on the soft tires, which left 2 laps, so I did a short 2 lap stint on the racing medium tires. Both of these strategies are pretty adjustable, so if your car is pretty good on the tires, then you can go for a longer stint on the racing soft tires. So for example, if you're doing 2 stop, then instead of doing 7 soft, 9 medium, you can instead go for 8 soft, and 7 medium. Do be aware that if you do decide to go for a longer racing medium stint, the tires do start to feel a little sketchy around 6 laps into your racing medium stint. So you want to be a little careful once you start going into that range for your racing medium stint, so you don't get caught off by surprise, end up going super wide and end up losing a lot of time. If you're able to adjust your driving style so that you don't end up going super wide out of every turn, then you should be fine. You shouldn't be losing too much time. For the racing soft tires, the tire wear started to kick in around lap 5 or 6, and in my case with the Dodge Viper, the car simply became more understeery, so I just had to go a little slower just so the car can make its turns. So I'm going to go ahead and go into the pit stop, and for this first pit stop, I'm actually going to be going in for just tires. So fuel will be an issue. You will have to refuel, and if you want to fuel save, then you can do it by simply short shifting. However, if you are in a car that does not have the speed to keep up with the power cars, then you're more likely not going to want to do any sort of fuel saving, because if you start to fuel save, then you risk getting left behind. Now when it comes to refueling, this is a little flexible as well. So let's say you're doing a 2 stop, you can try to refuel as late as your second pit stop, and if you're going for a 3 stop, then you can try to refuel as late as your 3rd pit stop. If your car is not that efficient on fuel and you see that your car is not going to make this next stint, then you can go for a partial or a full refuel. So by partial, I mean you fill up a bit of the fuel required, then you go out, do your next stint, and when you come back for your next pit stop, that is when you refuel a bit more. So I'm going to show this for a bit, and this is going to be important when it comes to fuel races where fuel is an issue. So if you see the little diamond on top of the line next to the F, that's the amount of fuel that you will need to be able to complete the race. But because we still have a long ways to go, it's going to be all the way to the right, and you're basically going to have to wait a little more before the diamond starts to come closer and closer towards the E. Now, when you're doing your first pit stop, you're going to be able to see how many more laps you have until you hit empty. And in this case, I'm doing 7 lap stints on the racing soft tires, so I can see that I'm still going to have a couple laps left over of fuel, so I can easily decide not to refuel this time. Just wait until my final pit stop before I decide to refuel. You can also check how much fuel you have left by looking at the bottom right hand corner of your screen. So that's a multifunction display, and it can show more than just the course map itself. By pressing the left or right on the PS4 controller, or plus or minus on the Logitech wheels, you should be able to change over to things like the sector times, brake balance, and eventually you'll get to the fuel mapping. So this will show you how much fuel you have left. You can also adjust the fuel mapping so you can save a bit more fuel at the cost of your own engine power. So we're going to go ahead and pit in one more time. I'm doing the 2 stop, so we're going to change on over to the racing medium tires and refuel this time. So look at the fuel bar, and the diamond is now going to be closer to the middle of the fuel bar. So we're going to go ahead and refuel, and we're going to stop just a little bit past that diamond. That way we know for sure that we'll be able to finish the race without having to do some mega fuel saving at the very end in case something happens. And before I forget, racing soft and medium tires are required for this race, so make sure you use both tire compounds so you don't end up with a 1-minute penalty after the race ends. So at the end of the day, we have the 2 and the 3 stop. They both give out similar total times, so we need to find out which one is going to be better. And that's actually going to be a little hard to answer. I think that's going to be a bit more of a case-by-case scenario, or which one you personally prefer to use more than the other. So for the 2 stop, You do have to use the racing medium tires for a longer time, which can be a bit problematic, especially if you're doing closer to 9 laps on the racing medium tires, but it does save you from having to do an extra pit stop. With the 3 stop, you can spend more time on the racing soft tires overall because you're doing 3 stints on the soft tires, but the extra pit stop can create problems if you get slowed down by either making driving errors, serving penalties, or ending up in long battles. So in my personal case, I felt a bit better going with the 3 stop, and this is mostly because I was still feeling pretty good driving around with the racing soft tires. When I was doing the 2 stop, I did notice the racing medium tires start to get a little sketchy around 5 to 6 laps in. I was starting to understeer a bit more. I found myself going wide through a couple of turns, so that wasn't really comfortable for me. But at the end of the day, the strategy that you want to go with will depend on your own driving style and the car that you are in. If your car is pretty good on the tires, then you can definitely go with the 2 stop. If your car is a little harsh or you just don't feel comfortable going with a long racing medium stint, then you can try the 3 stop. But hopefully this helps you all out. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. So this is Mr. CA wishing you a good race, and I'll see you in the next video.